Hello, YouTubers. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the most recent changes in the .NET ecosystem world, which is about .NET 5. .NET 5, just a few weeks ago, the .NET team announced, I think it's Richard Lander, announced on the Microsoft Dev blog about, the release candidate of .NET 5, that it's ready to be used today. You can, incorporate it into your system and start working with it. Release candidates usually, there's a couple of iterations before it actually becomes, a global availability version, meaning a version that's production ready. But some people already took on that and started to learn the technology and trying to, leverage C#9 and all the kind of capabilities that come in with .NET 5. Now, a lot of people might ask me this question, say, okay, Hassan, you're talking about .NET 5, talking about the newest, the latest and greatest technologies. Why do I need to upgrade to .NET 5 today? Why do I need to learn about it? Why do I even need to consider looking into it? So there are two reasons here. There's a technological part of it, and there's a principal part of it as an engineer. The technological, let's start with the fun stuff, the shiny fun stuff. The technological part of it is that you get to basically leverage the new very strong capabilities of C#9, which is stuff that I'm gonna, talk to you about briefly in this video, and hopefully I'll have the time to actually put it down in, its own video, talk about all the capabilities that come in with C#9. You get to leverage .NET Core vNext, which is .NET 5. It's basically the platform is much faster. You can do much more with it. There's actual stats out there that Richard and the .NET team have published online about how much requests an ASP.NET 5 API can actually process per second versus .NET Core 3.1. You also get to play with the Entity Framework 5. Entity Framework 5, one of the most amazing capabilities that came with the framework is that you don't really have to build glue entities for many-to-many relationship set up anymore. Like for instance, if you have a student entity and a teacher entity, and you're trying to have a many-to-many relationship, historically speaking, since maybe early 1998, people have been talking about establishing a glue entity. Let's call it student teacher. And the student teacher basically is a glue entity that has a composite primary key between both entities. So one student could be learning from multiple teachers as much as one teacher could be teaching multiple students. Instead of doing that, the Entity Framework 5 actually generates that for you. So you don't have to actually go manually and create that manually. It'll do that for you outside of the box without having to think about what your primary key is and what do you need to set up and all that kind of stuff. It comes also with its own challenges, because sometimes the glue entity has a little bit more than just the foreign key of each table, of the primary key for each table. For instance, if you have a student guardian relationship, you want to indicate what the relationship with that guardian is. Is it a mom? Is it a dad? Is it a brother? Is it an uncle? What the case is. So it depends really on how much customization you want to use. For the most part, you can actually very easily, or most of the people, most of the engineers are leveraging the capability just to link up new two entities together and just move on with their application. Entity Framework 5 comes in, with speed. It comes in with a lot of great capabilities for tracking and caching and all that kind of stuff that you will find really interesting. And I hopefully, like I said, I get to talk to you about it a little bit more in detail. .NET 5 is more than just a new framework with shiny APIs, right? Now, understandably so, the .NET Core, as it evolves into .NET 5, it already has new 50,000 APIs. That's 50,000 new APIs that you don't get in the Entity framework, right? Sorry, in .NET Framework. So in .NET Framework, you don't have these 50,000 APIs, but we still want to do a merger between the .NET Framework world and the .NET Core world, and that's what .NET 5 is. It's a step closer to a full merger between these two great ecosystems, these two great frameworks. The one thing that the .NET Framework didn't have, that .NET Core has, is the cross-platform. You can build something and run it everywhere. The dream that the Java folks had really long time ago, early 1995, and it's still living until today in one way or another. Now .NET, world is picking up that speed, but with more calculated steps, more improvements in the technology itself. So whether you're using a Mac or you're using a Linux or you're using running on a mobile phone or running on a washing machine, for all I care, as long as the platform can support your framework, you should be able to run your application very smoothly. All right, so there's the architecture, there's the technology, there's the speed. Now, as an engineer, here's the other aspect why you should be considering migrating to .NET 5, the release candidate as a starter, and then actually it's going to be general availability in November, which is just less than a month from today. What you want to think about is that as an engineer, as you know, a lot of engineers are joining this .NET ecosystem almost on daily basis. And from a software engineering industry perspective, the industry keeps having lots and lots, almost in the millions of engineers joining on yearly basis. So every year you have a couple of more millions, maybe 5 million, 10 million people joining the industry and trying to learn about its capabilities. A lot of people are starting to realize that the future is in software engineering and programming, and they're having a lot of interest in that. The easier the frameworks are, you as an engineer, whether you are an entry level, mid-career, seasoned, it doesn't matter where you stand in your career line, you have to continue to invest in your own skill set by staying current to the latest and greatest changes if you are using the .NET ecosystem to build your enterprise applications. A lot of people came to me and told me, okay, this move, I can't just make that move easily because there's this huge project that I'm working on and there's a lot of breaking changes and we did a lot of customizations and all that kind of good stuff that you'd hear in one enterprise application or another. My advice for you is, you have to have side projects, you have to have your own little experimental projects, you have to be a participant of open source projects that actually has a noble goal, something that is useful for the entire world, and it still shows your genius. It plays the role of a portfolio for you to show what your capabilities are, how you communicate with other engineers, what it's like to test drive things, and what it's like to actually interact with other engineers and actually, meet them halfway and try to figure out, what's the best way to architect a particular problem. A lot of people have asked me, well, how do I start that? How do I do that? Well, just about a few months ago, I started this open source project called OtripleS, Open Source Schooling System. It's an open source free project. The project is basically aiming to replace all the existing schooling systems in the US and across the world. Hopefully, with one condition, that the funds that the schools get, whether from governments or from donations or whatever the case may be, these funds need to be redirected towards the economically disadvantaged students and their families. So poor students and their families, they get the money that's dedicated to the software, and in return they get to use OtripleS for free. OtripleS is this open source project that you can participate in, and you can, push code. It'll give you some assignments. You get to see what it's like to build clean architecture, single responsibility, all these nice principles, solid principles that you enjoy to watch on YouTube videos, but then, you don't really, maybe not very sure what it looks like in a big enterprise application. That's what OtripleS is. It's helping disadvantaged students at the end of the day, but at the same time, I'm also building it just so I can have a whole group of engineers, who don't have the opportunity to learn by actually trying things out, because people learn in different ways. A whole group of engineers will actually try to actually engage in the project and actually build that and learn in the process. Let's just share screens in here and let me show you what's it take to actually upgrade to .NET 5. All right, so first of all, here's the announcement from Richard Lander. He's a really great advocate for .NET technologies. He has great videos also on Channel 9. Please go ahead and check his content. He basically, put the announcement out there for .NET 5 release candidate 1. Right, there will be a couple of iterations. Like I said, you will run into some issues and people will try to fix them before the final date. And he talks in really close details, about what you get out of the box, from .NET 5, from C# 9 capabilities, speed. It's a long, long, beautiful article where he actually goes into details about the speed. Here's your 3.1 performance for case-sensitive matching. Here is your .NET 5 performance. You can see a lot of improvement in from what used to take 1,000 nanoseconds will take 400 nanoseconds. What used to take 1400 nanoseconds, it went down almost to half of it, and so on and so forth. The improvement in speed and capabilities and the optimization, these are great minds, great engineers that are working on daily basis just to improve your engineering experience, and .NET 5 is the fruit of that. That's the result of that. So, okay, I hyped people up. I said, okay, this is the, .NET 5. It's great. Go use it. How do we use it? How do I upgrade my existing application? I have a .NET Core 3.1 application like the one I have on OtripleS. If you go to type in OtripleS, if you go to GitHub, there's, a schooling system for the world. And the system basically have a lot of contributors, like you can see over 13 contributors, and we basically have all these changes and all these discussions that are going on. And the system today, if you go into the solution, my apologies, if you go into the project itself, you will notice that the project is still using .NET Core App 3.1. So how do I upgrade? This is real life experience. Like you saw in most of my videos, we could talk and talk and talk, but what really matters is how do you upgrade your existing project step by step into .NET 5. So first and foremost, you want to install Visual Studio Preview, preferably Enterprise Edition since it's for free, so you don't have to pay a lot of money. It's for free, so you can get the Enterprise application, but you also can go and install .NET 5. So here's .NET 5. You can install the SDK. So you have F# 9, F# 5, C# 9, and you have all that SDKs. I personally recommend, based on the architecture, you could just run with x64 for Windows. I don't know if anyone is running 32 bits anymore, but that's your installer right there. You could use that. And once you install that, now you are ready to actually go and run, upgrade your application. After you download Visual Studio Preview, install .NET 5. If it doesn't come out of the box, it's very likely that you're going to get it out of the box with Visual Studio Preview. But now let's just open up OtripleS. Here's OtripleS. Excuse me. So here's my project. OtripleS, huge project, continuously a lot of contributors in the project. Like wherever you look in the code, you'll see the names of people that contribute to this project, and things go back and forth, and like you just saw, there are people, great contributors from every place. You'll see in one method, you'll see multiple people have already touched the class, and yet there is consistency in the code. There is reliability in the code and all that kind of stuff. So okay, so we have all these tests. I'm kicking off the tests. We know that it's running in .NET 3.1. Just making sure that there is our baseline. Our baseline here is to make sure that everything is working first, and then we're going to upgrade, to .NET 5, and then we're going to run again, and hopefully the application will just work smoothly without any issues. So how complex would it be? Are we going to have to change our code? Are we going to have to, change things? I don't think so, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Just go in here. Here's our work. Here's our projects. Still 45 seconds is a little bit too long, but that's just some optimization that we can take care of. How do we upgrade to .NET 5? All you got to do, just go to Properties for each and every project in here. Go to .NET 5. Save. Let's go to the next one. .NET 5, save, go to the next one. So it's acceptance unit and the actual project. So all of this have been upgraded to .NET 5. That's the first step. So easy, right? You just right-click Properties, haven't touched the code even, right? Now let's go to the solution itself and do Manage NuGet Packages. Now we're going to upgrade everything, even the frameworks, everything else included, and we're going to upgrade everything to .NET 5. The one thing I want you to pay attention to is the Updates tab, and you want to make sure you check Include Pre-Release. include pre-release. If you don't include the pre-release, then we have a problem, right? Because you won't be able to see this v 5.0.0 RC and preview and all that kind of stuff. You won't be able to see any of that stuff. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to select all of this and just click update. Don't worry about it. It's just going to work, right? I promise you, at least for this project, it's dependencies. If you have similar dependencies, you don't have to upgrade them one by one. That's actually a bad idea because some of them are dependent on others. So let's just go ahead and accept all the licensing and all that kind of stuff, and let's just upgrade. So here's your upgrade. Great. So now we're upgraded. Here we go. Give it a second. I don't have to do anything. I'm just waiting for it to resolve itself. And then there's a couple of warnings in here that should hopefully be resolved as the final release comes out. So now we upgraded everything. Like if you right click, go on edit project file, you will notice that your entity framework is running on 5, SQL Server 5, Newtonsoft JSON 5, code generation, everything is running on 5 except for the libraries that I created, which will work nicely with everything you're doing. And the most important one is that you have target framework .NET 5.0. So everything now is upgraded to .NET 5. The next step here is to go and say, okay, I have all that kind of good stuff. Now here's the moment of truth. Now let's run all these tests again. And let's see if these tests are passing. So let's kick that off. Let's see if that works out. There we go. Here we go. So far, I know that the build has succeeded because you can see it down here. So the build has passed. But do we see any inconsistencies in the test that we're running itself? Let's see what happens. There we go. Kicking off and running. Picking up speed. 43, 35, 27, 19, 13, 4, done. So that means my entire solution is running both acceptance and unit. Acceptance test basically actually literally runs end to end. Please go back to my video and see how to build acceptance test. You're actually running an offline test against your entire solution from the controller to the service to the broker to the database and back. So there's no doubt here. There's no questions asked about whether the serialization is working or your security is working, whatever the case may be. Everything is just working, right? So that's great. Let's commit that message in here. Let's just go here and say breaking. You got to make a big deal out of it because people will be asking you why when I pull the solution down and try to run it in the normal Visual Studio, then the preview is not running, right? So once you upgrade your project, you're actually basically telling everyone, let's go guys, let's upgrade, let's go to the next level. So breaking change and then upgrade to .NET 5.0 RC. Be as specific as you can be. Let's push this straight to master, and let's just deploy this. Now here comes the next problem, right? A lot of people will say, well, that's a release candidate. How am I supposed to have my pipeline actually run the stuff that you just ran? How do we have VMs that can support release candidate? I got the answers for you. So let's just go to the pipeline. Obviously, the pipeline will fail at first. Let's go here and let's look at the pipeline. Here's your pipeline in GitHub, and I'm going to show you how to do this in ADO as well. Don't worry, I got you. So in here, so here's OtripleS, and let's go and see what's going on in the pipeline. Here's your job. So .NET build release. Here we go. And watch this guy fail. Let me take away my face outside of the screen so you get to see the actual thing, which is more important. So here's the guy. So watch this. Warning, we have problems. Depends, extensions. Let's see. There you go. So this guy failed. Why did this guy fail? Let's take a look. What it's basically saying, it says, welcome to 3.1. We're not on 3.1 anymore. But what you will notice in here, it says right here, determining, warning, whatever, And here comes the error, the build has failed. What's the error? The reference of .NET Framework v 5.0 was not found, or were not found, right? And these assemblies were not found, therefore you're not running on .NET 5. Big problem. Now, your entire pipeline is in trouble and you can't fix it. So now what we're going to do about that, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. Let's go back to our pipelines and let's go back to editing our pipeline. So there's an edit. I really don't like that mode. I hope I can switch that to dark mode. That would be great. Anyway, so here's our guy, and then let's just go ahead and change a few things. First of all, I don't want that build kickoff to happen because I already have a build in here. So I don't need that guy in here. So let's take that guy out. Let's just show a display name of whatever. That should be fine. But under that, I'm going to add a new task. If you search in here, use, you will notice in here we have a nice thing down here called use.NET Core, right? If you click on use.NET Core, keep it on the SDK. We want to go ahead and put in here the version. We want to include the previews, and we want to put in the version that matches the .NET 5 version that we're running with. Where do I find that? Someone might ask, where do I find that? It's right here. And I'm going to give you the link as well. It's 5.0 100 RC 1.20452.10. So that's the actual version. This is the official release version that you can actually pull based on. So let's go back to our pipeline in here and put that guy in here. And then click Add. So you see I added this task in here, right here. And then let's just make sure everything looks right. Release. Like this. I think that's pretty much it. Let's see if it'll give us any errors. Usually the parser will tell you. Okay, so we saved. It looks good. Now let's run this guy against our master branch. Okay, while parsing YAML, we still have a problem in here. Let's see what problem we have. We have task, restore, inputs. Just make sure this is an SDK. Here's your version. Here's your inputs. Here's your task. Usually it's just some indentations, some indentation problems. Let's see if we're missing anything in here. That's input, feeds to use, select. Let's look at this guy. I think these guys should be in good shape. Like this. YAML can be really, really weird. Command test. Would that also work? Let's just make sure this one also is in good shape. I don't think it's any of these, honestly. Let's see. This is task. The task is aligned. One thing about YAML I really don't appreciate. I wonder if it has anything to do with this guy. Ah, there we go. So this display name in here is basically a child of this. There you go. Now everything is good and dandy. So it's this guy like I thought. Okay, so great. So let's save this guy. Let's run. And let's kick off. Sorry about a little hiccup, but this is all my demos. I'm just giving you real-time debugging and running of the task as we speak. So right, so here we go. Here's the job. This is obviously an open source project, and this YAML file should be super available for you to take a look at. Because I pushed my stuff to master, it's going to go and initialize the job, get the stuff from master, .NET build, use .NET. Now it's going to start kicking off the .NET 5 stuff. Here we go. There we are. Kicking off this use.NET. I'm going to let this guy sink in for a while it's building, while I go back to the solution here and show you some of the great stuff that you can use. So someone might ask me, Hassan, how do I know I'm actually using C#9 in here? It's so simple, really. If you can go to any of these validation methods, you can start saying, okay, is null is the equivalent of is not an object, and not is basically something new to C Sharp. We don't actually use not. If you try it with a normal C Sharp 8 syntax, it would tell you the exact same thing, right? So if it's not an object, that means all of our unit tests should just pass. So I'm just going to kick off our tests again and validate that. So I changed some code, right? We changed some code. Let's see if our logic change here have changed anything. Let me zoom in a little bit for people on their phones. Here we go. So acceptance tests are passing, which is great. Now let's kick off the unit test, which is a little bit more closer to every single pipeline, every single scenario here. There we go. It's kicking off. Passed. See? So just a normal change like this, you can see the benefit of it. Now you're picking up C# 9. You can also experiment with C# 9 with building things like, I don't know, public record, I don't know, animal, and you can say what's the animal name, and maybe, how old is the animal, something like this. So here's a record. You could go and say, okay, I have a var animal equals new animal, and the name of the animal, let's say, I don't know, elephant, and then the age is maybe 30 years old. I don't know how long elephants live, honestly, but here we go. And now you have an animal with all the capabilities. All of that stuff is C# 9 specific features, which I'm going to make a special video about because there's a lot of stuff that we can do in there. But the point here is, now you have the full capabilities of using C# 9. The beautiful thing about all of this is that, the syntax here is a little bit different between one place and the other. You don't have to say a name equal name. You can say name is that, because in normal life when you're speaking and you're trying to express something, you don't have to use that very scientific value. When you're trying to express, his name is. Like if I'm talking about someone, I would say, his name is Kenny, not his name equals Kenny. You don't say that, right? And that's basically what this is. You basically go and say, what are you trying to compare? Are they actually numeric values? And if they're not numerical values, why are you using arithmetic operations? There's so much more to this, but there's also some artistic parts that you may as well see in the language. Now let's go back to our pipeline. As you can see here, the pipelines is already in action. You can run things, you can build things, you're running the tests. Everything is just good and dandy. Someone might ask me, well, how do we do this in ADO? So this is pretty much ADO, but it's in YAML. Pretty much the same thing. Let me just show you real quick here what that looks like in a normal EDO environment. Properties, pull request pipelines, and then let's go to the build of this guy, and then you will see in here use .NET Core SDK. It's pretty much the same task. You go and click add and you just say use, and there's use .NET Core right here, and if you click on the task, it'll say the exact same stuff that we just did. Right now, someone might ask me, okay, what happens when I want to deploy this? How do I deploy this? If you go to Azure Portal in here, you can very easily go and say, okay, I have an Azure Portal. You can actually very easily go to any .NET Core project and just install the library that you want, right? So let's just say, I don't know, let's just pick up anything in here. Let's pick up this project in here. You can go to extensions, pick up the extensions. It's going to load some extensions. If you click on add required settings, there we go. So here's your add required settings, and then you will notice in here, right here, ASP.NET Core 5 64-bit. All you have to do is just install that guy. Once you install the guy, you're done. Accept the legal terms, you install it, it gets installed on your environment, and now you can run .NET 5 in the cloud, right? Because a lot of people have asked me the question, they said, okay, if I'm upgrading to .NET 5, what am I going to do with the libraries? Because in the configuration in here, you don't really get that out of the box. If you go in here in the configurations, you won't actually be able to see general settings. See, the version and the framework, if you go to .NET Core, it's not really going to let you do that. Unless, even if you're trying to install something from scratch, it's not really going to let you select the platform. So this is something for you to understand. So what do you have now out of the box? You have the upgrade from 3.1 to .NET 5 RC. You have the pipeline, fixing the pipeline, and you also have Azure. That's pretty much all you need, and also obviously to run on your local machine, which would be in Visual Studio. This is all I wanted you to learn from this. It's really, really important to stay up to date. It's really, really important to stay ahead, and always look at what's new out there, because that's how we evolve in general. The software engineering industry is not for those who want to stay in their older ways. The software engineering industry are for those who want to continue to explore and push the envelope and push things further and leave their mark in the industry. So if you want to do anything special, with your career, you want to do anything special as a software engineer, whether you're a hobbyist, you're just doing it for a hobby, or you're doing it as a full-time job, or you're doing it as a part-time job, it doesn't matter why you're doing it. Continue to learn. That's all. The one thing that I learned in 20 years just being in this industry is this one inevitable fact, which is truth. It's just the fact that you have to continue to learn, and that's how you do it. That's the manifestation of it. Continue to evolve, continue to upgrade new frameworks and features, and continue to learn about the new things and spread that. Teach it. When you teach something, when you help people learn something new, it comes back to you, tenfolds, because when you teach people, you actually retain 75% of the information that you studied. If you keep it to yourself, you're eventually going to forget it. And use it. That's the most important part. Use it, use it, use it. Make sure that you're using what you're learning. Try to involve it into some open source projects, side projects, and then eventually you'll make a good decision so you can, apply it with good experience and good experimentation across bigger projects and better applications. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I will try to respond to your questions and comments as much as I can, and I apologize for the long delays, due to some issues that I had to deal with. But other than that, I'll be available. I'll answer all your questions, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in another video. So thank you for watching.